Hi everyone. Before we go into the topic, let me introduce myself. I am Bhavani. I work as lead developer in test in one of the software firms in London. So today I'm going to explain you how to create the test framework, automation framework using Cucumber and Java from the scratch. So I'm going to use my build tool as Maven, and I'm going to use Cucumber Juice and Google Juice for my dependency injection, and Lombok for avoiding usage of getters and setters. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen now. Let me start my IntelliJ. So my IntelliJ is ready now. So let me share my screen. Okay, it's loading. So I'm going to create a brand new project using Maven. So I'm going to create a project, and you can select Maven there, and your Java version is based on your project needs. It can be Java 11, Java 8, it's up to you, and your application needs. So I'm using Java 11 here. So let's proceed further, and I'm going to name my project as test project 6. So, okay. So now I have my test project, and let's go into the form.xml. So in your, when you are using Maven as your build tool, you will have form.xml where you will have all your dependencies that are needed for your project. So let me import the dependencies tag. So now for my project, I need Cucumber Java, Cucumber JUnit, Google Juice, and Cucumber Juice and Lombok. So Lombok is optional. If you want to avoid using getters and setters, you could use Lombok. Otherwise, you can just define getters and setters instead of using Lombok plugin. But in this tutorial, I'm going to use Lombok. So initially, let's get the Cucumber dependencies from Maven repo. So I'm going to search for Maven dependencies and get them into the project. Maven Cucumber Java dependency. So there are two repos for Cucumber Java. One is info.cux and io.cucumber. So please try to use io.cucumber because that has the latest changes from Cucumber, and you'll be able to use after step and before step annotation. So I'm taking from io.cucumber, and I'm using 6.7.0 version for Cucumber Java. So and in the same way, I need Cucumber JUnit and Cucumber Juice. And another dependency is I need is Google Juice. So I'm going to get that from Maven repo. So Google Juice I'm using 4.0. So you can see that's Google Juice dependency. And I'm going to get Lombok. So here you go. So I have Lombok plugin and all other plugins that I needed for the project. So now I'm going to start actually working on the project. So first step to any Cucumber Java project is the feature file. So I'm going to create a feature file with .feature as my extension. So test.feature. And here I'm going to describe my feature, what I'm trying to achieve as part of this feature. So in this tutorial, I took very simple example of calculation of two numbers. So for any beginners who wants to use Cucumber Java newly, so it needs to be easy example. So that's why I preferred this example. So I'm going to describe my feature now. Given I have two numbers, when I calculate the sum, given I have two numbers, I should be able to, or I would like to calculate sum of two numbers. So, and you need to have a scenario which you want to run against your application. So I'm going to define the scenario and name it as calculate sum of two numbers. So I'm going to have my scenario as given I have 9 and 10, when I calculate the sum, then I should verify that the sum is 19. So whenever you are writing a feature file, you will try to use given, when, then. These are pure English sentences which can be understood by non-technical people as well, like BS, business analysts and technical analysts that and project managers in your project. When you try to run all these scenarios and generate a report, it will completely make sense to them because it's purely in English. That is the main reason Cucumber became very popular tool in the market. So, given is your preconditions, like the test data you have is 9 and 10, and when is your action. So, what you are trying to do has to be explained in when, and then is your verifications and expectations. Then you should see something from the application, or I should verify that the application is returning some JSON in the response, something like that. So I have all these three steps explaining my precondition, action, and verification. Now I'm going to try and create the step definitions related to these three steps that I have just defined. So when you highlight a step in IntelliJ, you'll see a bulb symbol. When you click on that, you'll see an option to create all step definitions. So it depends on whether you want to have all your steps in one class or different steps in different class. It's basically your need and your preference. So for now, I'm going to generate all my step definitions into a single class. So I'm going to call my step as calculate some steps. So I have all my steps here, but what I'm missing is I need to create a package before I have Java classes. So let me create a package under src test Java, new package, and I'm going to name my package as anytime package must be named like this: com dot your company name dot project name dot whatever you are trying to do as part of that package. So I'm going to name it as steps here because I want to move that calculate some steps into this package. So I'm going to move this calculate some steps into my new package, and so I'm going to remove all that annotations. And so whenever you try to whenever you have any new dependencies as part of your pom.xml, try to do this: right click on your project and go into Marvin and click on reload project, so that it will get all the dependencies usable by your project. So now I'm going to import given and import when, import then. Okay, so now I have imported all my dependencies into all my packages that are required by steps into the step class. So now you can see whatever the numbers that I have passed from the feature file, they have been converted into integers automatically when you try to generate the steps. So now what I'm trying to do is I'm just renaming them as A and B so that you have clarity on what you're trying to do. And when you are calculating a sum, let's just create a new variable called sum and try to do the sum of A plus B. So now we have a problem here. So you have A and B passed on to given step, but you don't have access to those variables from your when step. So that's where you need to use Google Juice for your dependency injection, and also Cucumber Juice, where you would have scenarios scoped annotation, so that you will have access to the variables throughout your steps. So now I need to try and get access to A plus B. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new class called test context, and I'm going to define getters and setters and save A and B into the test context and try to use it here. So let's do that now. So now I'm going to create another package called utilities, and I'm going to create my um, test context in that utilities package. So I'm going to name it as utilities. Always your package name should be all small letters. So so in that package, I'm creating a new class called test context, and here I'll define my variables: private int a, private int b, private int c. So now I have I don't want to call it as C. Let me call it as sum. So now I have three variables. As I mentioned earlier, to avoid writing up the code for getting getters and setters, you can use Lombok annotation called data at data. So whenever you use that annotation, uh, getters and setters will be automatically done at the compile time. So they will be exposed by Lombok. So let's use that data. And also for to be able to use that data, you have Lombok dependency in your form.xml. That's not sufficient. So you need to install Lombok plugin as well for your IntelliJ. So let's go into settings. Let's go into file settings and plugins and search for Lombok. So I have Lombok here already, so I'm not trying to do anything with Lombok here. So if you don't have Lombok plugin installed on your machine, you can try to install it. So you need to have that plugin to be able to use data annotation. So I need to use scenario scoped annotation as well, because I want all these variables A, B, and sum. All those three variables should be available across all of my steps. I want them to be available across all my steps. So that is the reason I'm using scenario scoped. So now let me try and use test context in my step class. So to be able to use test context, you need Google Juice to inject test context as a dependency. So I'm going to use inject annotation com.google.inject annotation and define my dependency here. So test context, and I have instantiated the test context, and so now all I want, you can see getters and setters are already exposed by Lombok, and you have to set variables, set A to A and test context dot set B to B. So now you have set all your A and B, and now what you can do is you can get A from test context and get B from your test context. And now you have saved your sum into sum variable, and now let's save that sum as well into set sum into test context. So now you have set the sum as well into test context, so that you could use that sum for your verification in your then step. So now I'm going to use JUnit for my assertion. So let's do static import of assert true. I'm going to use assert true. So now I have assert true. So in your assert true, you basically do, let's define this variable as expected sum. So here, from your then feature file, you are passing a variable saying that then I should verify that the sum is 19. So your expected sum should be 19. So assert true, expected sum equal to test context dot get sum. Your actual sum is test context dot get sum, which you have saved in earlier step. So whenever the step fails, you need to have a very descriptive message. Otherwise, if you have thousands of scenarios, it's hard to um, rerun everything and see what went wrong. So you need to have descriptive messages as part of your assertions always. So I'm going to define my descriptive message. Expected sum of test context dot get a and test context dot get b is plus expected sum, but actual sum is test context dot get sum. So you can define your message in a descriptive way, saying your expected sum of a and b should be your this, but it is something else. That's why test is failed. So when the test fails, this message gets printed. I'll show you in a minute. So now we have all our steps defined. So now let's try and run our feature file. So it says release version 5 is not supported. It's most probably because you haven't defined your properties saying you want to use Maven source plugin as 1.8 or above 1.8. So let's try to define that properties. Maven dot. Okay, let me get those properties. So I got the properties and I'm going to, so now you have to make sure your source and target version is above it, because I'm using Java 11 now. So let me rerun the scenario again. So I'm just rerunning the scenario. So whenever you have something new in your dependencies, always remember, try and reload the project from Maven. Otherwise, you keep getting the same issue again and again. So I'm just rerunning the scenario again. Hopefully this time it should work without any issues. Okay, cool. So now the test scenario is a pass, but you are not able to see what's going on, right? So I'm going to add a print statement and expected sum. I'm going to print expected sum and actual sum so that you will be able to see what's going on as part of the step. Okay, so now I have the print statement. Let me run again. I'm just adding another statement. So just to state that it's calculating sum of A and B. Okay, so now I have added the print statement. So you can, let me rerun again. So you can see it's calculating the sum of 9 and 10, and expected sum is 19 and actual sum is 19 as well. So now your feature file is passing. So let's get into the parameterization within the feature file. So now I have calculated the sum of 9 and 10. So you'll get many a times you'll get into the situation when you are testing the application that you need to test the same thing with different kinds of inputs. So for that, Cucumber provides scenario outline, which is very useful, and you can avoid so many lines of code within your framework by using scenario outlines and examples. So now I'm going to use the same scenario to calculate the sum of several numbers. Like it can be any option, 9 and 10 I can do, 11 and 12 I can do anything, any two number sum. So I'm going to provide example section here where I would define a, b and sum. So a, b and my expected sum. I want to do at least for 3 numbers so that you'll know what's going on. So first I want to calculate 5 and 10, which is 15. 10 and 25, 35. 5 and 6, 11. Okay, so you have the feature file ready now with several examples. You need to parameterize your variables. So you are always passing a and b, and you're verifying that the expected sum is matching what you are supplying from your feature file. So now I have 3 kinds of inputs. One at one time I'm giving 5 and 10 and calculating the sum and verifying, and the other time different numbers. So now let's see what happens when I run this scenario. So this scenario basically runs thrice with different inputs. So one time it's calculating the sum of 5 and 10, and the other time it's calculating the sum of 10 and 25, and next time it's calculating the sum of 5 and 6. So that way you could achieve any, you could pass any number of different inputs and then verify your application output. Um, and also there is another way to run Cucumber feature files, which is by using a test runner class. I'm going to create another package called test runners, and create a Java class here called test runner. And for to be able to describe that this is a test runner, you need to have run with annotation, and you're basically running this class with cucumber.class. And also you need to have another thing, cucumber options. So within the cucumber options, you have to define where your feature files exist. So my feature files exist in src test resources folder. So I'm just defining that as my features folder, and you need to define glue as well. So glue is nothing but where your step file lives, I mean the package name where your step file lives. So this is my step file. So let's go into the package name. You can see I'm using com, company name and steps. So let me try and copy that onto my glue. So now right click, that's all you need for running your feature file via Cucumber. You can use the tags as well, which I'm going to show next. Oh, oh no, I haven't created the resources folder. So okay, whenever you write a feature file, you need to make sure they always exist in the resources directory. So under test, I'm going to create a new directory called resources and move my feature files there. So now let's go back to the, sorry. Let's go back into the test runner, and now my resources folder exists. Prior to creation of resources, I didn't have that folder, that's why it's failing, saying path must exist. So let me rerun my test runner now. So now you can see it's calculating the sum of 5 and 10, and whatever we have defined in the feature file, it's doing everything, the calculation of sum and verification of sum. So that's examples. And also now let's look at the tags. So let's say I have tagged this as Bhavani, and I want to calculate sum of 25 and 10, which is 35. And basically, I want to run only this scenario. I don't want the above scenario to be run. So in that case, what I need to do is, I just need to have another section here called tags, and define my tag here. Yeah. So now let's run the scenario, and it should calculate the sum for only 25 and 10. It shouldn't run the above scenario because I have chosen to tag, pick up the tag only Bhavani. So you can see the calculation of sum 25 and 10, and expected sum is 35, actual sum is 35. So that's how you would make use of tags in the test runner. That's all I have for today. Hope you enjoyed the session. In the next session, we can go deep into REST API testing, and I'm going to take an example of the openly available APIs and try and show you how do you use REST Assured to test your REST APIs. Okay, thank you so much for watching my video. See you later. See you in the next session. Bye.